Hello, and welcome to Connected Love here on PRN FM, where each week is an incredible exploration into the many facets of love, oneness, and our connection to the human spirit. I'm Lisa LaRose, and I'm joined by the amazing Michael J. Russ. I want to say welcome, Michael. It is always such a pleasure to join you on these unscripted conversations. How are you?
I agree, and I'm awesome. Yeah, so it's a great day. A little cool in the morning, but it turned out to be 55 or so. So, dealing with life's challenges in a positive way and moving forward.
Absolutely, keep moving forward. That was one of Walt Disney's favorite sayings. I don't know if you knew that, but I didn't. I found out about it when I watched the movie Meet the Robinsons, and they had it at the end, saying that he was famous for saying, "Around here, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths." And look at all the wonderful things that he created and all the inspiration that unfolded because of that curiosity. I've really been looking at a lot of the energies. We had such a great conversation with Carol Collins and the teachers last week. And then a friend of mine had sent me a video with a woman. I had never heard of her before, Delisa Hawking, which I sent off to you. And she said her personal word for 2026 is curiosity. And I thought, wow, I like that word. I mean, I've always been curious. I've been curious since I think that I was a little girl. I just always was interested in things, like to figure out how things worked. And I've thought about it in relationship to what's been going on in my world. We got a lot of snow. And it was very interesting because the only thing you can do is dig out. You pick up the shovel, you dig your car out, you dig your spot out, you dig out all of these different things, and the temperatures are very cold. And I thought, wow, how interesting that this situation is sort of mirroring the barometer of what's going on in the world. People are feeling weighed down, and this heavy energy that they're really not sure how to clear and move through. It's sort of like they're stuck, and they become kind of displaced by everything that's been going on, not only in their lives, but in the world around them. And it can make you feel frustrated. I think that there is a heaviness in the world right now. It's kind of that metaphor with the snow. I'm picking it up and I'm moving it, but at some point there's nowhere to move it. And people become very triggered about their parking spots. And I get it, because it took me an hour and something to clean out my spot, and then somebody parked so that I couldn't get in my spot. So guess what? I had to go in the house and grab my shovel and dig out some more so I wouldn't hit their car trying to pull into my spot. But it's okay. It is. I mean, it's just one of those things that happen. It's one of those things that unfold. It's something that will be a distant memory when the snow melts. But this heavy energy, the collective right now, it's not summertime, but there is sort of this boiling point, this barometer of what's going on. But it's sort of like being stuck in the snow and having to pick up a shovel and move little bit by little bit, doing your own part to move through the energy so that you can get out of it and feel lighter again. And I really liked what she had to say about curiosity and how it can serve us, how when we become curious, we can look at the internal landscape, like, why is this showing up for me? Mm-hmm. What's this trying to teach me? Why am I feeling so emotionally strong about a parking spot? And then I don't really need an answer. I just need to go within and sort of sit with the question and be gentle with myself, because curiosity is what keeps my heart open and allowing myself to grow so that I am no longer a student of my struggles. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know you've been going through your own challenges. So I'd love to hear your thought about curiosity and how it can help us navigate through these somewhat challenging times.
Well, thank you so much. Wonderful introduction about the concept of curiosity. I think that, for me, I've always been incredibly curious. I am an absorber of information. not wholesale amounts of it, but bits of information in various disciplines, and I just absorb what's around me. I'll see something, and I guess my curiosity drives me to want to know a little bit about a lot of things, and conversationally that comes in handy because I can be sitting with someone and I can pull some piece of information out of my mind about something that I've come across and I've read a little bit of that can contribute to a conversation. And my girlfriend Sandy's like amazed at how I don't spend any time doing things, yet that she sees, the involving myself in learning about anything. Yet when I'm sitting down with somebody at a restaurant or wherever we meet, I'm talking about, I'm able to contribute some piece of the information to the conversation that's relevant with regard to that. So my curiosity, I use curiosity as a tool for connecting with other people and to find commonality, common ground. It's a way for me to instantly have common ground with people. We were sitting next to a gentleman last night, and he was evidently one of the top 5 people at FedEx Corporation. Wow, who knew? And he was also the CEO of a company whose services I use, which is Topgolf. It's a driving range company, and he used to be the CEO of that company. And then I said to myself, after I left, I said, I saw him on television. I saw him when Topgolf was just getting started. It had 2 or 3 places, and he came on and was talking about it. And what's interesting is, golf is there's common ground in golf. Just about you find out somebody's a golfer, you're instantly connected to them, and you can talk about it in a way that helps open up the conversation and create a friendship. No matter how brief that friendship is, it's not a matter of I'm creating a friend for life. It's a function of connecting with someone on a level of their passion and your passion, shared excitement. And so it could be anything. It could be auto racing. It could be whatever. But I just read I'm curious enough to want to read just a little bit of articles here and there. I don't even need the whole thing. I just peruse and find little bits of information, put it back in my little memory banks, shelve it away, and either it gets used or it doesn't. But I find it interesting to know a lot about things. Now, what this young lady, Ms. Hawking, was talking about was more of a personal curiosity, and on a couple of different levels. What I picked up from that conversation, because we listened to the same conversation, was asking yourself questions like, why do I feel this way? A question that I ask myself all the time. When you become highly alert, highly aware of how you feel, when you develop that connection with how you feel, you can derail any health issues, because you can note what symptoms you're feeling, and you can look up those symptoms, or you can tell right away, it's allergies, or could this be a little cold? Could this be getting, you wake up with a scratchy throat or in the middle of the night, and okay, I think I need to do some things in the morning to help myself before this thing takes over me. The other thing she was talking about was, well, let's just go back here for a second. That's from a health perspective. You can ask this question about why do I feel this way about anything. If you're dealing with a challenge in your life and you're experiencing lower level emotions of frustration or fear or doubt or worry, asking yourself why I feel this way can help you ferret out the belief or the perception that's driving those feelings and emotions. And that's, to me, the most invaluable thing to reason to ask this question of why do I feel this way. It's constructive. It's utilitarian for you. It's a way to become more deeply connected with yourself. And I find that it has less value, less relevance, when you start asking questions like, why does that happen? Why did that happen? Those kinds of questions when you're asking about events, things externally in your life, things that occurred, it's a deep, dark rabbit hole that you'll never get an answer to, and it'll just basically take you and your emotions and your focus and your attention and all of your energy, and it'll drive it to some place that has no relevance for you. It'll just waste it, because there is no real answer to how and why things occur in life. Yet I know some people who are still in a state of how and why, spinning their wheels because somebody close to them passed on, something happened somewhere in the world, and a big earthquake or this, something that, I knew somebody that was involved in that lost their life, and I don't know why, and all of a sudden they're confused. And the how and why there is never going to be answered. You're never going to know. Why did somebody call you that name? Why did somebody do that? Why did somebody turn in front of you when you were without any reason whatsoever that you can think of? Why did that person park the way they did without noticing that you weren't going to be able to get out? The fact that you just got your shovel and went out there and just made a wider space for yourself, that's the right move. Don't invest in it. You just go out. You just go. Don't ask yourself how and why it happened, or try to find the person. Invest in all of that drama. You just go get a shovel and you go take care of it yourself. Without investing all that negative energy and time, focus, and attention into something like that. But she was really kind of interesting because she went deeper when it comes to feel this way. It's asking yourself some really cool questions like, what do you love in life? What do you value? How do you practice self-love? What makes you happy? These are very, very valid, very, very relevant questions that you can ask yourself. And when you start going down that road, you learn more about yourself. And that was one of the main themes of what she was talking about, curiosity, involving curiosity to help yourself evolve and transform by asking questions that actually led you down that path of transformation and evolution. And I thought that was invaluable with regard to that conversation.
Thank you, Michael. That's a brilliant summation. And there are so many opportunities for us to become triggered on a daily basis. And in the interview, she shared that there's an emotional root system that is within each of us, although we may not realize it or even acknowledge it. But she went on to elaborate that one of her mentors taught her that it can all be traced back to 3 core needs, that we want to feel loved and worthy, that we want to feel safe, and that we want to feel some sort of control over our life experience. So a lot of times, and she used the example of getting stuck in traffic, that when we're stuck in traffic, we have somewhere to go. So we're frustrated because we're not in control of what the other drivers are doing. Somebody might cut us off. We may even get into an accident, but you're not really angry at the other person in the other car. You're just feeling that you're out of control. And so sometimes, and she had some wonderful, I don't know if she said, she used the word dig, and so that made me think of like an archaeologist. When you're digging for something, you really want to look at what the root cause, and that's why I so appreciated her use of curiosity as a way to dig. Why am I feeling unlovable, unworthy? Why am I spiraling because I feel powerless in this moment? Why is there a part of me that fundamentally feels unsafe or threatened? And I think that whenever we allow ourselves to go into the present moment and sort of identify the core energy, we recognize that there's a past trauma there, but we're able to heal it and we're able to move forward, which is really all about personal sovereignty. It's about alchemizing those moments that became triggers for us so that we can feel safe, we can feel in control, we can feel loved, all of those things. And I appreciated the insights that she shared in that regard, and really what are we looking at and how do we sort of understand where the emotion's coming from and then allow it to sort of dissolve in intensity. I thought of the word curiosity when she mentioned it sort of like a healing tool, because when any of those needs are activated, we need to take a deep breath and bring our own energy back into our body and recognize that whenever we're challenged, we can recall a moment, as Carol Collins said, something to love on. It doesn't matter what it is. Remember a time when you felt deeply loved and seen and cherished. And that can just stop it right in its tracks. You don't have to be engaged in anything that's the opposite of positive that will keep building and building and building and doesn't serve anybody except giving you perhaps high blood pressure. It doesn't serve anybody. So it was really, I loved the idea of curiosity as a healing tool in that capacity, that we can alchemize things. And once you name it, as I believe the teachers have talked about, then we need to move it. We just need to move it from our system and overcome whatever those blocks are from that past trauma. I'm curious if there's ways that you alchemize situations such as that.
You know, it's interesting because the word that came to mind when you first started talking about this was awareness. And to the extent that curiosity is awesome, but you have to have an awareness of what it is you want to be curious about. In other words, when you're applying it to, transmuting a situation or alchemizing a situation, we have to be aware enough and alert enough to understand what we're experiencing, and that it needs to be that there are questions we need to be asking that are relevant to alchemizing the situation, relevant to transmuting the energies that we're generating from within, and that there's the awareness gives us, in my view, in many cases, the reason for being curious, right? And there are some of us. I know for me, I hear something like the other day. I spotted this ad about sea moss, right? And the benefits of sea moss. And it actually was an ad. I think it was something in an interview with Robert Edward Grant. We were talking about sea moss. Somebody was. And I said, wow. See, so I get curious. I hear something about that and the fact that sea moss has 92 of the 102 minerals that we have in our body. And I start getting curious about how I might be able to adapt the use of sea moss to help myself remain healthy or proactive situation, right? So that's the way I've always been. And it's like, so I get curious and I learn enough about it to decide whether it's something that I do or don't want to adapt into my dietary regimen, whether it's going to be valuable enough for me. Because I get a lot of people saying, oh, yeah, you should try this, you should try that. And saying, I've done a lot of things and that I've been curious about and then found out about and discovered one way or the other, because, curiosity leads you to discovery of things that are based on, that are aligned with the main thought that you're having. It's interesting because this is back to the attraction of energies like for like, right? So if you're curious about something, you're going to all of a sudden start being presented with information. You're going to see things that are aligned with that curiosity that you have, that intention to be curious about something in specific, right? Something specific. And all of a sudden, you're going to see that everywhere. You're going to see the answers to what you're asking yourself. They're going to start popping up. And that's what I love about curiosity, is that it's a great way for you to align your thoughts with and energies with what's most beneficial for you. And if you remember that being curious is being curious about using curiosity in a positive way. And, I believe there is an alternative way, not so good for you, but I just described, for using curiosity when it doesn't have to do with you, and it doesn't hold any relevance for your own evolution, for your own transformation, or your own to alchemize any situation. People do go down that rabbit hole. They go down that rabbit hole and never fully heal or evolve because they're focused on something that isn't relevant to helping them heal. And this is what society teaches us, is to become focused on and engrossed in the how and the why, so that of a dramatic situation or something that's unfolding, which elevates our own fears and doubts and worries and frustrations, and the opposite of love, the opposite of joy, the opposite of fun. And I know for me, I recognize this all the time. Like, this thing that's occurring I don't want to know how or why, because
Right.
it's not relevant for me. I don't want to know. It's not important for me. The importance for me is to ask the question and be curious about, why is this happening for me? Right? Why is this happening for me? Why am I being exposed to this situation? What can I learn from this situation and apply it to my own life? Right? My own transformation. Or if I am involved in something similar, what can I learn from this that can help me move through that? Right? Because I think that's one of the reasons why we're exposed to things, because they have some relevance for us. It's just not the relevance that we think it is, because we've been taught to be attracted like moths to a flame to drama and negativity and somebody else's pain and suffering. Literally, that's what that's what you see every night. If you're somebody who watches the news, they want you to experience somebody else's pain and suffering, and fear, and worry, and doubt, and frustration. That's how they keep you watching. So the value to me is being curious, is in being curious about being open to being curious about things that you have been exposed to in a way that can help you move forward. That, to me, that has the most value. And that's how I most often use curiosity in every level of my life, right? I mean, it's every level, whether I'm pursuing a hobby that's fun and exciting to me, or whether I'm sitting at my desk. Curiosity is a huge part of the work I do every day. It's a huge part of sitting down and playing the drums for 15, 20 minutes, because I'm curious about how this thing sounds. I'm curious about how this feels, right? And what I'm looking to do is to elicit more excitement, more passion, more fun, more joy. And if curiosity is doing that, I think we're on the right track. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I love art, so I'm curious. I'd like to play with lots of different mediums, including some of the apps that I have on my phone. So I play with different vintage films and play with taking pictures. And I rediscovered an app that I had several years ago because it popped up in my memories from my Facebook. And I thought, oh, geez, that was a pretty cool app for taking interesting photos of animals. And I rediscovered it, and it had all these new filters. And I thought, oh, what does this one do? And I used the image from our show, and you put it in there, and it made me into tarot cards. So I got 6 fingers in one of them, but it was actually kind of funny just to be in that curiosity exploration, like, what does this do? And just learn some different things. And I do that when I will paint a room. I'm just curious as to different textures, and I blend a lot of things. But when you were speaking before about sea moss, I thought about that because it was somebody's curiosity about the benefits of a plant that led to a supplement. And I think back, because I love to go mushroom hunting in the spring, and when I was first learning about wild mushrooms, I was always curious about who figured out which ones were poisonous, and because some of them are very highly poisonous, right?
Exactly.
And, you think about it, though, but curiosity is what has moved humanity forward from the caves to the stars, and it's all about expansion. You think about Einstein. He questioned time and space. He was curious about it. The mystics were curious about exploring consciousness. We spoke about Rumi and the writings and the teachings that go way back to some of these philosophers who asked, who am I? Why am I here? That still keeps us curious. And I believe that every expansion of that human consciousness began with somebody that was brave enough to ask a deeper question. And I think that, for me, is what curiosity is about, is asking those deeper questions.
Yeah, I agree. Asking those deeper questions. I mean, be curious, obviously, about a whole lot of things. I mean, it's applicable to absolutely every aspect of your life and every nuance of our world. And the curious, and I've considered myself an incredibly curious person. And I would encourage our audience here, examine that. If you're incredibly curious, as if that's your nature, there's going to be some amazing things that you'll discover about yourself and the world around you. And we talked about this a couple of days ago as a topic, and I said, curiosity isn't something that that's encouraged, because curiosity is a personal journey. It's not a collective journey. It's not a journey. So if you're in a classroom and you're curious about something, it may not be the same thing that everybody in the classroom or the teacher even is curious about. So you have to hold back your curiosity for a time when you can actually pursue it, because you're not encouraged. As a matter of fact, curiosity is in many cases in schools shut down.
Right.
And
I just thought of curiosity killed the cat. That's really that you're taught. Curiosity killed the cat.
Exactly. It's shut down because it's disruptive. It's disruptive, and it takes you away from the lesson plan. It takes you away from what the teacher needs you to learn in order to pass the test. And so the students who come in incredibly curious, that curiosity is encouraged to be shelved, so to speak, to be put away, and because it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to be curious. When you and I both know that discoveries, the most fabulous discoveries in the world, came from curiosity. When you can sit in a lab by yourself and be curious about things that are occurring in front of you, processes that are unfolding or something you've mixed together. I mean, Oreo cookies came from an accident of curiosity, from something completely. They weren't looking for that little cream that goes inside. It was a byproduct of something else. And a lot of things in this world that you consume or you buy or whatever were basically mistakes based on initially curiosity. So it's not bad. It's actually very, very good. And if you're in the sciences, curiosity is the thing that will take you farther than anything else. If you shut down curiosity, you're pretty much shutting down your whole ability to learn new things, right? Because you've got to be able to say, what would happen if I mix this with this, okay? It's either going to be very positive or it could blow you up. I mean, I don't know. There are things that happen, but all of them have occurred because someone was curious, right? And to me, I love sitting at my desk and looking and reading about different things. And curiosity also, I know for me, and I know many other people, it's a catalyst to those aha moments and miraculous moments, those moments where you discover something new, something you didn't know before. And it's inspiration, in my view. Curiosity is tied to inspiration in deeply connected ways. When you're curious about something, it creates this mindset, it creates this energy of what's unfolding next. It's an excitement energy, it's fun energy, it's joyous energy. And when you're in that state, you're going to attract things to you and into your life and into your world that are of that same nature. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I love about curiosity. You get these ideas. You're curious about one thing, and all of a sudden you get this, wait a minute, that inspiration about this thing or that thing that could be tied to it or could take you down a different path. And if you're open to going down that path, you'll discover other things, right? So in my view, we have to rediscover our curiosity, because I know I've run into some adults lately in their 60s who the curiosity has been so shut down that it's as if they're living a life in a box. They're living life in a box. And the joy and the fun and the passion of life have been drummed out of them by either the business that they were in, the work they were doing didn't require curiosity. Curiosity was not encouraged, it was discouraged. And if that's the place you're coming from, getting back there means you must begin to rediscover your own curiosity by being on your own. And I think, as we started at the beginning of this conversation about, why do I feel this way? Being curious about yourself is, in my view, the thing right now that is and most necessary in the world we live in. We have to be aware of and alert to our feelings and what is driving us, what is creating the joy and the fun in our lives, so we can separate that from the complete opposite, and we can do more of what brings us fun and joy, right? Fun, joy, and passion, excitement. Those self, love. What sparks the love for ourselves? What do we do that makes us feel that way? And you have to be curious in order to find out.
Right. Michael, when you said that about the path, all I could think of was sprinkling breadcrumbs along the trail. And that curiosity is, well, I follow those breadcrumbs. And it's sort of like an invitation. We have that opportunity to, as curiosity, we uncover our beliefs. We uncover what brings us joy. That curiosity, well, I often hear people say, I would never do that. I will tell them that I'm doing something that they'll say, I would never do that. And how do you know you wouldn't like it? It may not be for you, but unless you open that doorway or that opportunity, you may find that it's something that you really love to do. And we have to recognize that there is no failure. It's a doorway. So even though we may not feel, for some, it's hard to imagine safety. It's very difficult for them. Some people have difficulty visualizing what it means to be loved. But with every breadcrumb, it becomes an invitation. We can ask, why does this feel safe to imagine doing that thing that Lisa loves so much? Or
I agree.
Where did I learn that love was unavailable to me? And it's not that you have to revisit past traumas. Both you and I got into the readings of Sarah Landon. And part of what the council speak about, that there was an old paradigm in spiritual growth, that we thought we had to unearth every single trauma, like we were on that archaeological dig. And we thought we had to fix ourselves. But the new way in a high vibration is that integration is not a chore or a checklist. It's simply allowing and being aware that there was a version of me who was easily triggered, who felt unsafe, who felt unloved. But that's the past tense version of me. I don't need to revisit it. I don't need to fix that person. I just need to stop choosing to be them. And I need to be curious enough to understand that there's something liberating on the other side of that doorway. Picking up those little breadcrumbs that you so eloquently put that path out for that visual for me, to understand the things as you pick them up, you may feel more alive. Some of them may not serve you. You might just be like, oh, no, you know what, I don't need that. But it's allowing you that opportunity to become and know that you are here and you are safe. And if old blocks come up, then you just breathe through it and acknowledge that was the old way of experiencing whatever energy it was. In the new way, I'm an embodiment of love and peace and joy and all of the wonderful things that we so deserve.
Love it. I love that you brought up choice, too, because choice is a big part of it. You have to, and just like everything else in your life, you have to choose to be curious. Choose to make it an intention of yours to envelop it into your life and to live more from curiosity than not. And I love it because you make choices. You start to if you make that your intention, you begin to make choices that are aligned with curiosity. You allow yourself to be curious and allow it to be one of your intentions, and you allow yourself to make choices that support that curiosity, that continue to open things up. And I love Sarah Landon, by the way, from that perspective. I mean, that's our whole psychological system is based on going back and revisiting the past and eliminating old blocks and things of that nature and traumas. And she was very much right. We're in a different age right now where you can make choices by making different choices. And I've said this all along that for if you go back and revisit something that was traumatic for you, applying forgiveness and understanding that if it wasn't something you chose, and likely it wasn't. You can forgive yourself for not having had the ability to choose. You can then Ho'oponopono. You can put it in there. By the way, I saw this movie last night. Little more on the violent side, but it was called The Wrecking Crew. And in the passing of this gentleman's father, Ho'oponopono was the father's ashes were put in an urn, and 4 people got into an outrigger at the ceremony with the ashes, one holding the ashes, this woman, and the 3 men paddled the outrigger out into the ocean to spread the ashes. And the guy who was talking had mentioned, yes, in alignment with Ho'oponopono, if we forgive ourselves, we forgive, and it was wonderful. I just said, wow, wait a minute, Ho'oponopono, wait, hold on a second. It was so wonderful because it took place in Hawaii anyway. And as it was woven into the eulogy, the spiritual eulogy that was being said, I thought that was really rather cool. And what's interesting is, with regard to curiosity, what just popped into my head was, wow, what if we adopted Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian prayer of forgiveness, and into our lives on a daily basis, because and we're curious about the outcome, curious about what would happen if we did that. How would we feel? How would we let things go more simply, more easily? How would it transform the people who are around us as well? It's a very curious thing. To me, it's like let's test this, right? Let's see if this works. Let's test this theory. Let's involve forgiveness or gratitude more into our lives and see as part of our personal journey and find out what happens. How differently we feel, and whether things that we're excited and passionate about come to us much more easily because we're eliminating blockages and impediments to them coming to us. Wow, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and I really love that you bring up Ho'oponopono, and we haven't spoken about it in a while, but I just thought to myself, what a great example, Michael, because Dr. Len was curious. He was a therapist in Hawaii who healed an entire ward of mentally ill criminals without seeing any of them. And if you think about that story, if he would have just gone to work and said, you know what, I'm a traditional therapist, I only have to do this one thing that was taught to me in school, I guess. I'm not really sure exactly what the procedure is for treating the mentally criminally insane. Right?
Yeah.
Right. But instead, he was inspired, and he went back to his heritage, which was the teachings of the Ho'oponopono. And the idea is that you clean, he wasn't cleaning their issues, he was actually cleaning and healing himself. So he said, whenever we work on ourselves, we go into that empowerment stage where we sort of say, I'm not responsible for you. So he didn't take on any of their traumas or anything that they did. He took it on that he was cleaning himself. And he felt that if you create your own reality, you've created this person. He was curious enough to look at the patient's charts and say, what aspect of me needs healing on this level? And that's how the patients got better, which is so powerful. And as you said, when we see these things on the news or wherever, when we see something that triggers us, to internalize it, and that's, I think, what Delisa was saying about curiosity, to actually look at ourselves, what aspect of myself. And would you repeat the very simple Ho'oponopono?
Yeah, sure. It's for our people who want to look it up. It's Ho'o, H-O'-O, and then as one word, Ho'o, and then there's Ponopono, P-O-N-O, is 2 separate words. So it's Ho'oponopono, and it's very, very simple. I was saying it while I was walking my corgi last night. I'm sorry. It goes like this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you, and thank you. Very simple. And I speak it as if I'm speaking to myself, because that's, to me, what it's for in the first place. So I'll say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Simple, right? Mm-hmm. And you say that when I'll just use myself as an example. If there's something that happened that day that I know I made a choice and the consequence came out, the consequence of that choice was not exactly what I was hoping for, and I simply forgive myself for that choice that I made and for the consequences of the outcome. I just do that, right? And mm-hmm. I say it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. That's it. Simple. Those 4 lines really do stir something within you. It's phenomenal how
it is
powerful. Oh yeah, how empowering that can be. Self-empowering. Mm-hmm. And if we could get the world to start saying that right now, over and over again, like a mantra or a chant, speaking to ourselves, I really do believe that we could shift the energies of what's going on in the world, all around the world right now. We could do that. We could create more self-love. Yeah, absolutely. In this particular case.
I mean, if a institution could be closed, a ward could be closed after 4 years of him cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
What is
awesome.
Possible? It is. It's just amazing because and the patients, and if you read the story, it's really quite miraculous because some of them were violent. They were in leg shackles and very, very dangerous. But he just looked at his feelings, and if he was upset, he'd clean up his perceptions, he'd clean up his feelings, and the patients got better and better and better. And as you said, if we could be curious enough to just all do it. And I think I've always said it, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, because I love you at the end.
Yeah, but, well, I'm not saying it isn't going to work, so, it's not for me to say. But a lot of it is your own energies and what you feel in your life. That's really what it's about.
Sometimes I dance around and sing, and that's what the things I've always been curious about.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I mean, listen, it's one of those things you do for you, and that's the thing I love about it is that you don't do this because you want to change someone else. You do this because you want to go shift something within you, and by doing so, that will impact your external world. And so, with that understanding, to me, it makes it even more powerful. It does. It's just, This is what we need to do. We are taught to blame your external world for your circumstances. I mean, let's just face it. Nobody wants your teacher's not going to come to you and say, look, you need to blame yourself for this because whatever, right? Blame that other thing outside. And when you start living from that, then you become a victim of everything, right? Mm-hmm. And so employing this Ho'oponopono as a technique to help cleanse your energies, to shift you from within, makes it so much more powerful and empowering for the people and the energies and their frequencies that are around you. And that is beautiful. I was thinking about this when you were talking just earlier about relationships. It's interesting about how this particular doctor looked, how he could heal something. He looked at his patients and he said, how can I heal this within me? And when you said the word perceptions, it clicked because as a doctor, he was in a hospital with mentally ill, supposedly labeled mentally ill criminal people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the perception, the label, the perception that comes from that label. Right? You have a perception and you begin to behave. You behave based on the perception. That's the way it is. The perception shapes all of your thoughts, your feelings, your self-talk, and any reactions or responses that you have. And so the beautiful thing about his story is that he was able to eliminate his perceptions about these people, no matter based on what they had actually done in their lives. And he's never going to get to the real root cause of why they did it. that's not really important. Let's just bypass all that, and let's find out how I can heal this within me. What about this can I heal within me? And that's where I'm going with this. And I'm not carrying these perceptions into conversations. I'm not doing that with them, because your perceptions of them as being a bad person, have done something, heinous or whatever it is, because they're in the shackles and everything. They're not treated like human beings anymore because society has deemed them not to be, human beings based on the way they've been treating and being labeled. So, you're going to basically get to the superficial aspect of what's going on. And it's just, I just love that he shifted that all around. He just turned around and did what other people would consider to be miraculous, but what he knew was the right thing to do, or the thing that would shift the energies within the whole building.
Yep.
And that's the power, man. That's it. That's what it has. You can do it in relationships.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because I think to Bashar, and one of the things he always says is circumstances don't matter. It's only the state of being that matters. And when he was in a different state of being, he didn't look at the circumstances that those patients, and thank you for bringing that up, because they were labeled. And I think that whether we're labeling Republican, Democrat, X, Y, Z, dark, light, it's a label.
Yep. Good or bad, black or white, green, yellow, whatever it is. It shapes everything. Right? Yep.
It's just an old definition of whatever it is. If we go into the space of what if I look at somebody and they're not so different from me. They may be in a different part of the world. They all get up, they put their shoes on the same way, they get dressed, they shower, they need the basic needs are all the same. We all share the same heart, and I think that as we practice things like Ho'oponopono and curiosity, we're able to hopefully grow that field that's all around us and expand the consciousness of the heart and really shift what's going on. I think that's sort of where we're headed. I looked at the Buddhist monks this morning walking in the snow with their parasols, and I thought, geez, I have on 3 pairs of pants and really warm boots and it was cold here the other night. My hot water froze, but that's beside the point. But I go out dressed, and I can go out, and I may be out for an hour. I'm not walking in these temperatures. I really admire them.
It's dangerous. It takes
a discipline and a fortitude.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree 110%. That's it. We something popped into my head while you were talking there, and it's that love is going to change the world. The path to love, though, runs right through forgiveness. It does. We if you ask somebody, do you love yourself, and they're questioning whether that's the case, or they're not so quick to answer because they've judged themselves or shamed themselves in some way about something they did in the past, and I'm unlovable because my relationship failed with this person. I'm unlovable because I didn't pass this test. I'm unlovable because somebody told me I was unlovable. I mean, my gosh, there's a myriad of different reasons. The path to clearing all of that happens to be forgiveness. Because you got to forgive yourself for all of that. It's literally flush it right out of your system, right out of your life. And that's why I love Ho'oponopono. That's why I love practicing that. That's practicing that that prayer of forgiveness, that act of forgiveness, just clearing it out like every day. I stay happier. I stay more joyful if I just forgive myself for the little things that, instead of shaming myself or judging myself for something that didn't go right, something that society would say went wrong. And to me, that's not even it. It's just something that went differently than what it is that you expected. And something that I live by on a daily basis and understand, or something you said earlier in the conversation, is that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And that's what I was thinking about when you said traffic jam. Ms. Hawkins was talking about if you're in a traffic jam and you're feeling you really need to be somewhere else, you're supposed to be somewhere else. What I've started doing, which has really changed things for me, is in this past couple of months, is I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Right, 100%.
Right here in this traffic jam, this is where I'm exactly supposed to. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be somewhere else. I'm supposed to be right here. And when you start thinking from that level, there's a calm and a sense of peace that comes over you. You let go of all that angst and any anger that might be involved, any of those opposite of love feelings, opposite of joy feelings. They basically dissipate because you come to a place of, okay, take a deep breath. I'm supposed to be here, and then you can ask through curiosity, why am I supposed to be here? And I start looking around. I start looking around at other people in other cars if I'm in that situation, right? I do, and sometimes I might come across somebody, and we smile, right? And I go, hey, how you doing? Whatever. Maybe I was supposed to be in that spot just to do that because they were having not such a good day, and somebody smiled at them. You can never tell. I don't really attempt to drill down to figure out exactly what it is because that's one of those whys you'll never answer. But I do feel that it's important to share that energy, spread that energy. And so that's one of the benefits, in my view, of curiosity and the like. So it's wonderful.
Right. And I think when something doesn't work out quite the way that you expected, it does make curiosity arise. Like, how could I have done this differently for a different outcome? But not to beat yourself up about making a different choice. And I think sometimes the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves isn't being hard on ourselves. We don't need to fix ourselves. We don't need to fix somebody else. But we can become curious about ourselves. And when we sit with the emotions, as you were saying, instead of fighting them, we just gently ask, what am I needing right now? What is my heart needing? How can things change to serve me better? What do I want to become? And I think beneath every trigger is a tender part of us that is just simply asking to be understood. And I think that curiosity sometimes is that doorway into that understanding, because when we meet ourselves with curiosity instead of judgment, that's where the healing begins.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Say that again. Say that again, please. When you meet yourself with curiosity instead of judgment. That's brilliant.
That's when healing begins.
I love it. That is so true. So true. Let's choose that one. Let's choose curiosity versus self-judgment. Or judgment, period, of anything. That's brilliant. I love that. Well said. Absolutely. Thank you. Said. Yeah. It's beautiful. A lot of power in those words. A lot of power. A lot of value. With a number of things, it's interesting because I think all the people I'm listening to right about now, and I'm sure Ms. Hawkins was talking about it as well later in the conversation, was how people, the world's changing. And many people are frustrated. Many people are fed up, and they're deciding, hey, I'm not going to take it anymore. This thing is unacceptable. This path that we are on is unacceptable. How can I make an effort? How can I put a dent in making this change? How can I help it change? And so what's interesting is that many people around the world many young people have chosen the path of resistance and protest. And that is not a bad thing. It's just, in my view, I look at the situation, and I'm their situation, and that's what they've chosen to do. And it's perhaps, I don't ask why. I'll simply say, maybe as souls, they incarnated to be in this place at this time to do this thing. Because again, it's along those lines of, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. Right? So maybe that's what they're telling themselves. I don't know. I'm speculating, of course. But it's one of those interesting things that I'm curious about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that. People around the world have decided, hey, this is unacceptable. I deserve better. We deserve better. We deserve a better life. And it's happened in, at least 8-9 countries right about now. And I don't know who's listening, from what country people are listening. All I'm saying is that your path to greater happiness begins inside. Greater love begins inside. The change you're seeking outside begins inside. We all have to need to look within, be more curious about how we can shift our own thinking so that the energies that we're radiating are more aligned with what we want outside of it. Right? More love. We're gonna operate from a level of love, not drama, love, not anger, love, not revenge, love, not judgment. I know it's a challenge. It is, because we have been indoctrinated to judge, to see ourselves as victims. The point, though, is that the powers that be love us being victims, because victims are controllable. And we do not want to be controlled. We want to be in charge of our own lives. Mm-hmm. So by not making ourselves a victim, by not blaming our, the powers of government or the powers of our parents or other people in our lives, schools, you name it, institutions, by not blaming them, we empower ourselves. We empower ourselves. And when we apply forgiveness to that for moves and choices that we've made in the past that have contributed to whatever it is, guess what? You feel different. And when you feel different, your life is better.
That's beautiful.
You're going to invite more fun, right?
Yeah,
you're going to invite more
absolutely.
fun. Everything. Yeah,
right.
That's what I love about it.
And I think
that's
all
exactly
of us should remember that curiosity doesn't have to kill the cat. That in the world of conscious living, maybe it's what saves the human. Maybe it's that curiosity, that awareness, that knowing that we have this beautiful unfolding that's becoming, and that we are shifting what's going on. What we do makes a difference. I say that all the time. What I do makes a difference when I do that inner work. And I know what you do, Michael, and what our audience members are doing. Even tuning into the show, we're so grateful that you make the time to tune in and be open to our perspectives on the way that we see the world and sharing more love, connection, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer. So I'm very, very grateful. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with, Michael?
Gosh, I don't know. I think I probably talked too much about it, but no. I want to simply say this, that we have a tendency as human beings to make life harder than it really needs to be. And if we simply remember that from within comes the without. From within comes the without. What we do, what we think, how we feel, what we radiate, that is what our life experience is going to mirror back to us. And I know I've given this a boatload of thought this year, and all I can simply say is because I have given it the thought and I've been curious about how this show involves a lot of curiosity as well, which I really love. It makes me curious about a lot of different things and things that I use in my life I'm happier than I've ever been right now. And it's amazing that I've had, it's taken me 6.7 decades to get to this particular point. However, every day is just one step in front of the other. It's a journey. If we're curious about how we can live a more happy and fun and joyful life, then you're asking the right questions. And I think that you're listening to this podcast because you've been asking yourself that question. And hopefully we're giving some information that can help you answer your curiosities, that can help you be even more, actually ask more questions and continue to move forward on your journey in life. Thank you for listening. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you again. And till next time, walk in peace, stay connected, share your love, shine bright, always stay curious, and of course, peace out. Thank you.